Have you ever wondered how life as we know it actually began? This question stands as a monumental riddle looming over our understanding of evolution and biology. Theories abound, each attempting to trace the elusive path from inanimate matter to the first spark of life. Some propose that life arose in the depths of our oceans, in hydrothermal vents teeming with heat and chemical potential. Others suggest a celestial origin, with life's building blocks hitching a ride to Earth on the back of comets. Still, these theories are shrouded in uncertainty, lacking definitive proof or consensus. What we do know is that life's beginnings were humble, likely starting with simple organic molecules. But how did these molecules make the extraordinary leap to complex, self-replicating life forms? How did we go from a soup of simple compounds to the intricate dance of DNA replication and protein synthesis? This leap, this bridge from non-life to life, remains largely unexplained, an unbridged chasm in our understanding of evolution. And herein lies one of the most glaring gaps in evolutionary theory and the origin of life itself. Despite our best efforts, despite the advancements of science, we are still grappling with this fundamental question. We are still searching for the missing pieces of this complex evolutionary jigsaw puzzle. Thus, the question of how life originated remains one of the most intriguing puzzles in the theory of evolution. It's a question that invites us to explore, to question, and to marvel at the mystery that is life itself. Another conundrum evolution fails to solve is the emergence of human consciousness. This mystery, often referred to as the hard problem of science, poses a significant challenge to evolutionary theory. You see, consciousness is unlike other biological traits. It cannot be observed or measured directly. We can't find physical evidence of consciousness in the fossil record or in our DNA. It's an intangible, subjective experience that leaves no trace, making it incredibly difficult to study from an evolutionary standpoint. So, how did consciousness arise? Was it a gradual process over millions of years, or did it emerge suddenly? And most importantly, how can we even begin to answer these questions without physical evidence? We can trace the evolution of the human brain with its complex network of neurons and see how it has grown and changed over time. But linking these physical changes to the emergence of consciousness is not so straightforward. The problem here is that the Darwinian mechanisms of natural selection and genetic drift, which work so well to explain the evolution of physical traits, struggle when applied to the realm of consciousness. After all, how can natural selection act on something that leaves no physical trace? This gap in our understanding raises doubts about the completeness of evolutionary theory. It forces us to question whether the Darwinian mechanisms that have served us so well in explaining the physical world can also account for the complexities of the human mind. Until we understand how consciousness arose, this aspect of human evolution will continue to challenge evolutionary theory. Often cited as concrete evidence of gradual evolution, the fossil record actually presents a disjointed picture. The fossil record is like a historical novel with pages torn out at random intervals, leaving us with an incomplete narrative. These gaps and abrupt transitions are particularly evident when we examine the progression of human evolution. A walk through the hallowed halls of natural history museums might give the impression of a smooth, linear progression from one species to the next. However, the reality is quite different. The fossil record is not a continuous timeline, but rather a series of snapshots with significant periods of evolutionary history missing. This disjointed nature of the fossil record has led some scientists to propose the theory of punctuated equilibrium. This concept suggests that species remain relatively stable for long periods, only to be interrupted by brief radical changes. It's as if evolution hits the fast-forward button, leading to rapid development and transformation. One of the most contentious issues in evolution is the extrapolation from microevolution to macroevolution. Microevolution refers to small, incremental changes within a species, observed over a relatively short period. These changes are often driven by natural selection, genetic drift, or gene flow, and are generally accepted as observable facts in the scientific community. They can result in variations in eye color, skin tone, or beak shape, for instance. On the other hand, macroevolution refers to the phenomenon where these small changes accumulate over vast stretches of time, leading to the emergence of entirely new species. The leap from one species to another, from a fish to an amphibian or from a dinosaur to a bird, is a primary example of macroevolution. However, this leap from micro to macro is where some critics find room for doubt. They argue that the mechanisms driving microevolution, such as genetic mutations and natural selection, may not be sufficient to account for the grand scale of macroevolution. The formation of entirely new genetic information necessary for the emergence of new species is a process that remains shrouded in mystery. While microevolution can be observed and tested in real time, macroevolution, due to its long timescales, can only be inferred from the fossil record and genetic similarities among species. This difference in observability leads some to question whether the leap from small-scale changes within a species to large-scale changes between species is truly justified. Thus, the leap from micro to macro evolution remains a leap of faith in the theory of evolution. Why do we not utilize our brain to its full potential? This question poses a challenge to the efficiency of natural selection. This query draws us into the perplexing enigma of the underutilized human brain. Our brain, a marvel of nature, is a vast and intricate network of neurons, yet we're only harnessing a fraction of its power. This underutilization is not just a mystery, but a seeming contradiction to the principles of natural selection, which favor traits that improve survival and reproduction. Evolution, as we understand it, should not be so lavish as to endow us with an organ of such complexity only to let it remain largely dormant. This is akin to building a state-of-the-art sports car, yet only ever driving it in first gear. One might argue that the untapped potential of our brain is a form of evolutionary insurance, a reserve of cognitive power for future challenges. But this explanation falls short when we consider the metabolic cost of maintaining such a complex organ. The brain accounts for a disproportionate amount of our energy consumption, a cost that seems unjustified if we're not fully utilizing it. In the grand scheme of evolution, this apparent oversight raises questions about the efficiency and direction of natural selection. It challenges the notion that evolution is solely a process of refinement and optimization, suggesting instead that evolution may be a more haphazard, less predictable process. The mystery of the dormant brain thus remains an intriguing shortcoming in the theory of evolution. The misuse of evolutionary theory for social and philosophical agendas has muddied its scientific integrity. A classic example of this is the misapplication of survival of the fittest, a phrase coined not by Charles Darwin himself, but by sociologist Herbert Spencer. This phrase has been used to justify social and economic policies, promoting a sort of social Darwinism that Darwin himself never intended. In the context of evolution, survival of the fittest actually refers to the idea that those organisms best adapted to their environment are more likely to survive and reproduce. It's about fitness in terms of suitability to the environment, not brute strength or domination. Yet the phrase has been distorted to justify ruthless competition and social inequality, suggesting that those who succeed in society are naturally superior. This misinterpretation extends beyond social policies. It has also led to widespread misconceptions about evolution itself. Many people mistakenly believe that evolution is a ladder of progress with humans at the top rather than a branching tree of life with no inherent direction or end goal. This is a far cry from Darwin's original ideas. Moreover, this misuse and misunderstanding of evolution can feed into harmful ideologies and beliefs, from eugenics to racial superiority. It's a stark reminder that science can be misused when divorced from its original context and intent. This misuse of the theory of evolution has unfortunately led to its misunderstanding and misinterpretation. In summary, the theory of evolution, particularly regarding human origins, is fraught with unanswered questions and theoretical gaps. From the inexplicable origin of life to the uncharted territory of human consciousness, the theory leaves us with more questions than answers. The disjointed fossil record and the leap of faith from micro to macro evolution further complicate the picture. The enigma of our dormant brain and the misuse of evolutionary theory for social agendas only add to the skepticism. It is these issues that cast doubt on the theory's ability to fully explain the complexity and uniqueness of human beings.